Five, four, three, two, one. Second stage. Second stage is by helping others. It's about helping others and sharing good news and sharing Jesus. Oh, second stage. All systems go. I helped others when they fall down. I helped them up.
Second stage is about helping others and sharing Jesus. All systems go.
This week I helped others by cleaning up my friend's mess.
I helped others this week by helping my mom clean the house.
I helped my mom do the dishes.
I shared the good news by telling my little brother Max who God is. I help people pick up garbage.
This week I helped someone learn how to roller skate. I help others by playing with my grandma.
I will help others this week by praying for my baby sister Violet to learn about God. This week I helped others by praying.
Second stage is about helping others and sharing Jesus.
I share Jesus by giving a passage to my neighbors and they started going to church.
Now, those kids are definitely all systems go. You might not know this, but a few weeks ago, they actually got to take home their own little jars, and they brought them back last week to make a big gift for their own. And those kids you just saw, they gave away over 200 of their own dollars to bless other people and make a big difference in the lives of other people. So we're proud of our kids in Second Stage. Now, if you are new to Hope, we have a tradition around this time of year. And what we do with this tradition is we have something that we call Christmas Offering Sunday. And what we do on Christmas Offering Sunday is we raise and give away as much money as we possibly can to charities in our area that are making a difference in bettering people's lives. The differences like homelessness and healthcare and hunger and education, poverty. And we just want to resource them because that's so important to do. And every year we do it. Honestly, it's one of the most exciting and anticipated Sundays of the year around here. I mean, we have Christmas, we have Easter, and then we have Christmas Offering Sunday. And then everything else is pretty lame, to be honest. But there's just so much energy and excitement around the day because we, every year, get to experience in a very small way the life-changing power of generosity as we raise and give away as much money as we can. So a couple months ago, I reached out to our friends over at the Lake Area Free Clinic. They're one of our partner charities. And I asked them, do you have any wish list items? Because I know what it's like to lead a nonprofit organization, and there are things you would really like to have, but there's just not budget for them. So do you have any wish list items? Here's the answer I got back. I want to share it with you guys today. Yes, Jason, there is a wish. Our wish is that the people of your church who have found their way to us in many ways will continue to share their love. Because in doing so, they have had a great impact on their fellow human beings. We are fortunate to be able to write grants to various foundations for support. Often these foundations are looking to support new programs to launch rather than offering support for operational expenses. The beauty of your support has been that it has been given for general support of the medical and dental clinic, allowing us to continue to provide the services for this underserved population. Through the generosity of your people, you have improved the health and lives of people you may never know. Your members will be remembered for their kind acts by people who they have met and people who they will never meet. You have allowed us to keep doing what we know is already working. You have already been wish granters. So our wish is for you to keep doing exactly what you are doing. Thank you, Jason. With much gratitude, Megan. So through our generosity, we are seeing the power of generosity and the life change that it brings in our community. Now, that's an average year with an average Christmas Sunday. But today at Hope, we're taking our generosity to a new level. In fact, today is going to be what I believe is a day that we look back on as a historical day in the life of our church. I think today is a day that several of us in the room will look back on as a historic day in our own faith growth, in our own trust in God, because today is Commitment Sunday for the Second Stage Initiative. And what we're doing through the Second Stage Initiative is we are making a commitment to turn up our generosity. So as a church, we can do more ministry than we have ever done before, so that we can acquire a facility of our own as a church, and so that we can give away more money than we've ever given away to our great partner charities like the people over at the Lake Area Free Clinic. And the reason why we are doing this is the big idea we've been talking about all series long: generosity generates change. It doesn't just change the world around us as people are blessed through your acts of generosity. It changes us on the inside. It changes our hearts. It changes the way that we relate to God and trust in Him. Generosity generates change. And today, we want to tap in like never before to the life-changing power of generosity by making our second stage commitments. Now, we've already covered this in the series, so I'm not going to talk about this today. Today, I want to talk about something that I haven't brought up yet in the series, but it's pretty important to consider as I'm asking all of us to make a commitment to generosity today. Today, what I want to talk about is this important idea right here. Commitments matter. And I don't just mean your commitment to generosity at Hope for the next 2 years matters, so we can be responsible in our planning. What I mean is that in all of life, commitments matter. When you make a commitment in life, you are exercising the most powerful action you can as an individual with personal freedom and free will. Because when you make a commitment, you are saying, here's what I value, here's what I treasure, here is what is aligned with my purpose in life, and I am planting my flag in this soil, and like a tree that is rooted, I will not be moved. To make a commitment is the most powerful act of freedom you can make as an individual. For example, when a person decides to get married, you are making a commitment. That is the most liberating act of freedom you could do. Most people assume, no, it's you're losing your freedom. No, it isn't. To make a commitment to marriage is to say, I am the person who will be standing by your side, and I will be faithful to you and love you in sickness and in health, and whether or not I even feel like it on a given day, I am deciding this matters, and I will do this. I will not be victim to my whims or my emotions or the circumstances around me. To make a commitment is the most powerful declaration of personal freedom you can make. In life, commitments matter. Now, not only do commitments matter in general, Jesus taught us that financial commitments also matter in our lives. Look at what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6 in the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus said, do not store up for yourselves. Now, you don't store up something on an impulse decision. It's a commitment if you are going to store something up. So he says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. Now, Jesus doesn't say, don't store up treasures on earth because that's bad. What does he say? Don't store up treasures on earth because it's temporary. By contrast, he says, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. By the way, store up for who? For who? Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. So Jesus is saying, instead of making a commitment to store up for yourself treasures that are temporary, what if you made a commitment to store up for yourselves treasures that have eternal value? And he concludes with this line, for where your treasure is, where your money is, where your dollars are, there your heart will be also. Now, this is such a profound insight from Jesus. What he's saying is, if you want to know what actually matters to someone, if you want to know what a person actually values, if you want to know where they have actually planted the flag, where is that soil, you have to show me the money. Money reveals what we truly value. If you think, wow, Jason must really love God, you can't judge that by what I say on Sunday. If you want to know if I love God according to Jesus here, you got to look at the money. You have to look at my budget. You have to see where my dollars are going, because money is the most simple way we ascribe value in our world. And Jesus taught, if something matters to you, the money is going to reveal that. Not only that, but if you want to change what matters to you, then start sending your treasure in that direction. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're someone who doesn't care about football at all. So who's miserable this time of year? Because you don't care about football at all, right? So if one brave person in the room, the rest are like, we cheer for the Packers, Jason, all right? If you don't care about football at all, if you start wagering $100 a weekend on football, guess what's going to happen? You'll get real interested in football. Do you know why? Because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Financial commitments matter, not just because they reveal our priorities, but because our money follows, our heart follows our dollars. Where we put our money, our hearts follow. And Jesus doesn't care about your money. He can't even spend it, okay? Have you seen the stores in heaven? They don't take American dollars. But what he wants is your heart, and he wants you to live with a clean heart, with a pure heart, with a heart that isn't all fouled up with selfishness and greed and pride and envy and all the things that are often associated with money. He wants you to live with a clean heart, and he wants you to live with a heart that is invested in God's kingdom, storing up eternal treasures for yourself, because where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Commitments matter. But there's a problem. As soon as we make a commitment, which is what I'm inviting everyone here to do today, as soon as we make our commitments, something is going to spring to life inside of us. And what's going to spring to life inside of us is uncertainty. In fact, commitments bring uncertainty. Whenever you make a commitment in life, it triggers, it raises, it makes you very aware of all of the uncertainty that accompanies that. If you make a commitment, what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen with the economy? What's going to happen with my personal finances? What circumstances are in my future? Whenever we make any commitment, especially a financial commitment, it makes us aware that so many things could happen which would make us unable to keep our commitments. And what future opportunities are you shutting out already by making a commitment today? We just don't know. Commitments bring uncertainty. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and I don't want this to leave the room. Let's leave this just in here with us. It's not actually commitments that bring uncertainty. Commitments simply make us aware of all the uncertainty that already exists in our lives. Life is uncertain. Your future is uncertain. There is so little you can actually control in your life compared to all the things that could impact the course and trajectory of your life. But it's not until we make a commitment that we become aware of how out of control we are of the circumstances that impact our lives. So it's when we make a commitment that we become aware of all the uncertainty that exists. Now, for those of us who are in the room who are Christians, I just want to talk to us for a moment. For those of us who said, yes, I follow Jesus, uncertainty shouldn't bother us a bit. We should be so incredibly comfortable with uncertainty, and let me tell you why. If you think of your favorite stories in the Bible, every single one of those stories was swimming in uncertainty. For example, you have the life of Abraham, and God shows up in Abraham's life and says, Abraham, I want you to leave your home, your family, your nation, and I want you to go to a brand new place, and I'm going to give you that land. Abraham says, great, God, can't wait. Where is it? God says, I'll tell you when you get there. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to make you into a great nation when you get there. God, I don't know if you've noticed this, I'm not even a great family. My wife and I are old and we don't have any children. How are we going to be a great nation? God says, well, you're just going to have to start walking and find out. When God's people, the Hebrew people, were enslaved in Egypt, God raised up Moses and he spoke to him from a burning bush and said, Moses, I want you to go down to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go. And Moses said, God, but I'm not a good speaker, God. And besides, I tried once and I already failed my liberation effort. I'm a failure. And besides, what exactly am I going to say? The bush is really angry with you? Let the people go? What am I going to do with this, God? But God said, well, I picked you. You're going. When David steps onto the battlefield against Goliath, here is a champion, here is a warrior, here is a fierce competitor, so powerful that the entire army is afraid to take him on. But David, armed only with a slingshot, steps onto the battlefield to face this incredible giant. Think of the story of Daniel. And the king gives an order, if anyone prays to anyone but me, you're going in the lion's den. And Daniel says, but all I know how to do is to pray to the Lord my God. Think about your favorite Bible story. It is filled with uncertainty. Or think about the most important weekend in the history of the world. The weekend in which Jesus gave us communion, was betrayed, arrested, tried, beaten, punished, crucified, and rose. And the disciples were watching this happen. They didn't know what was going on, and on Easter morning they stared blankly into an empty tomb, wondering with uncertainty, who stole the body? What happened to Jesus? And if you or I had been there on that weekend, I don't think we would have done any better. We would have looked at all the uncertainty around us and cried out, God, what are you doing? And God would have said, be still. I'm redeeming the world. Uncertainty is our heritage. And not only that, we believe history is going somewhere. We don't believe history is a pendulum that just swings back and forth. We don't believe it's round and round we go. We believe history is linear. Everything that happened in the Old Testament, all the historical events of the world lined up for Jesus to be born on Christmas. And since he rose on Easter Sunday and ascended into heaven, all the events in the world are leading to one final event. Jesus returned to the world to make everything new. The destination has been pre-decided. That's where we are headed. We should be fine with uncertainty. We live in an uncertain world, and when you make a commitment, it's going to trigger all kinds of uncertainty. But I'm telling you, for those of us who worship Jesus, uncertainty shouldn't bother us a bit. In fact, today, before we make our commitments, I want to give you one handle to hang on to, so that when you face uncertainty today, and over the next 2 years, it will bring you back to a place of calm and peace. And here's the big idea I want to share with you today. Clarity is found in God's calling. When life is uncertain, when the future is uncertain, when everything around us is uncertain, when we decide to retreat to what God has called us to do, we will find clarity in the midst of uncertainty. Now, my favorite example of this in the Bible comes from a leadership transition from the life of Moses to the life of Joshua. If you missed this summer, I preached on the life of Moses this summer. He went to Egypt, he did liberate all the people, and then spent the next 40 years wandering in the desert, leading them to the promised land. Now, one of his understudies, his protege, was a young man named Joshua. And Joshua was mentored by Moses, and he studied under Moses. And Joshua learned how to be a leader in the context of wandering. In fact, if you wanted to learn how to lead people in the context of wandering around through a barren wilderness, you went to the school of Moses. And you would go and you would sit in his class, and Moses said, okay, class, today we're going to talk Wandering 101. Here's what you do. When you wake up in the morning, you roll up your tent. Okay, then what? Well, there's the pillar of fire. Watch it, because it's going to turn into a pillar of cloud, and then it's going to move. And when it moves, you follow it. So Joshua's like, okay, follow the cloud. All right, then what you got? Well, that's pretty much it. You just follow it all day long, and when it stops, you stop and you set up your tent again. So if you wanted to know how to wander, you learned from Moses. And Joshua, after 40 years, pretty much had a PhD in wandering. Well, they get to the border of the promised land, and God comes to Joshua and says, Joshua, Moses is dead. You're in charge now, and you are going to lead these people into battle. And Joshua says, I don't know how to lead in the context of conquest. I know how to lead in the context of wandering. I'm uncertain about that future. And God says, well, you're in charge. Let's pick up the story in Joshua chapter 3. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give them to the Israelites. So God shows up to Joshua and said, here's the deal. You are in charge now, and you are the one who's going to lead these people across the Jordan River. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. According to God, what will make Joshua successful in his uncertain future? Be careful to obey what God has called you to do. When you don't know the way to go, be careful. Don't turn to the right or to the left from what God has called you to do. He continues, then you will be prosperous when you obey what I have called you to do. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So Joshua, whatever uncertainty he's feeling, God says, Joshua, here's all you need to do. You just do exactly what I've called you to do. You just do exactly what I have invited you to do. Clarity is found in God's calling. He continues in verse 10. So Joshua ordered the officers of the people, go through the camp and tell the people, get your provisions ready. 3 days from now, you will cross the Jordan River here to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you for your own. Are there any questions about the game plan? Yes, I see a hand in the back. The river has water in it. How are we going to cross it? I don't know, but go pack your provisions, because in 3 days, God told us we're going to cross the river to take possession of the land. Are there any more questions? Yeah, you over here. I heard there's like giants in the land. What are we going to do about the giants? I don't know. God hasn't told me anything about the giants yet, but here's what he did tell me. Pack your provisions. In 3 days, we are going to cross the Jordan River. Are there any other questions? Yes, you over here. Are we still doing the manna thing and those birds out of the sky? Because I'm getting kind of tired of the food. I don't know. Listen, here's what I know. Pack your bags. In 3 days, we're going to cross the Jordan River. Are there any other questions? When you say take possession of the land, what do you mean by that? I don't know. Here's what I know. Pack your bags. In 3 days, we are going to cross the Jordan River. Are there any questions about that? No? Well, then go pack, because this is what I know God has called us to do, and we are going to do what God has called us to do with remarkable efficiency, and the rest, come on. We'll figure it out when we get there. But for now, we are not going to turn from the right or from the left of what God has called us to do. Now, in this, we learn something extraordinarily powerful in life when events in the future are uncertain. Do you know what we learn? A powerful question to ask. What did God call me to do? What is it that God called me to do? When life is uncertain, when the future is uncertain, when there are unknowns lying in your future, you retreat back to this simple question. Well, what did God call me to do? In part 1 of this series, when there were thousands of people and Jesus said, you give them something to eat, there was one boy there who took his lunch and he put it in Jesus' hands. And in the uncertainty of what good that would even do, he didn't care. What was clear was what God called him to do. So in the uncertainty, he retreated to what God called him to do, and he found clarity in his path forward, and that unleashed the miracle. And then after that, Peter was in the boat, and Jesus invited Peter, "Peter, come to me out on the water." There is uncertainty since Peter normally doesn't walk on the water. He normally sails in a boat. But when he focused on the clarity of what Jesus called him to do, he got out of the boat and walked on the water. All series long, there has been a very significant reason why I have not asked anybody to give anything to Hope. What I have asked you to do is to be here all 5 weeks and to be in your small groups, because that way you had the opportunities to open the Scripture and hear from God. And I have asked you to go before God in prayer and ask Him, "God, what should my level of generosity be over the next 2 years? Because I want you to hear not from me, but from God. What is God calling you to do?" Because when you make a commitment, all of the uncertainty about your future will spring to life. But if you retreat to whatever it is that God has called you to do, and you say, "I am not turning to the right, I am not turning to the left, I am going to plant my flag, and I'm going to find clarity around what God has called me to do," then you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine if you are clear on what God has called you to do. So here's what happens next in the story. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp giving orders to the people. When you see the Ark of the Covenant, that was the big box they had with the golden angels on top and the 10 Commandments inside, and it was holy. When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God and the priests who are Levites carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go. When will you know which way to go? When you follow the path God has set for you. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. And he continues, Joshua told the people, "Consecrate yourselves, dedicate yourselves to the Lord today, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you." So 2 weeks ago here at Hope, we had advanced commitment night. And this was a night we had where we invited our elders, our staff, our leaders in the church, and anyone else who was ready to make their commitments, to come in and lead out with their commitments, to make their commitments before the rest of the church, because they were ready and they were excited and they wanted to encourage all of us. And on that night, it was incredible. Over 50 families led out and made their commitments. Over 50 families said, "We are all in. We are excited for what God has called us to do, and we are planting our flag. We are making our commitment." Now, why were they so excited to do this? We actually asked them. Let's take a look.
Second stage, it means a lot to me. I've never been part of something this big, and just knowing that I could be part of being able to reach out to other people that don't know Jesus means a lot to me, and I know that being part of Second Stage can do that. And yeah, we are definitely taking a big risk here. But I don't know.
We're all in. All systems, right? All systems go.
I've been a member of Hope since day one, and I've seen all the changes across the years, and every little step of the way has been super powerful. This second stage is just expounding on that, and it's encouraging me to grow in my faith so that I can leap out and be more generous to the people who don't know Jesus.
Second stage means being able to be a part of what God's doing in this church body, which is amazing and awesome, and a real privilege and honor, I guess, just because anytime you get to not only watch but be a part of something that God's doing, it's just such an incredible blessing, and it's just thrilling.
Second stage to me means reaching people that don't yet know God, and I'm super excited to create an environment where they can experience God for the first time and really grow that faith and have the Holy Spirit work on that little flame that's inside their heart. And however I can help with that, I'm excited to do that.
Second stage commitment means challenging myself and learning to once again sacrifice by giving to God, because God sacrificed himself for me. Giving has become comfortable for me over the last number of years. It's a good time to reflect upon all the blessings God has bestowed upon us, and we're now going to be recommitting and doing sacrificial giving.
I think it's just really helped me to reevaluate my priorities and where God is in my life.
It means a chance to give back to a God that gave me everything.
Right now in my life and in our life, from the year that we've been through and losing our son, the hope of change and the hope of new beginnings is very, very encouraging and very timely.
I love the fact that we have to learn to trust outside of what we're comfortable. And when we do that, he will do more than we can ask or imagine. And that just excites me to no end.
Hope has changed our lives because we have truly found the Lord in this church, in this family, and we just want to be able to let other people experience the same thing that we've experienced and have the Lord come into their lives and know that they'll be changed as much as our lives have been changed.
For us, it is, I believe, a reaffirmation into the mission of hope. It is us saying, we made a choice about 8 years ago to come here to reach unchurched and de-churched people, and now that we've been here long enough, it is time to take it up a level, and for us to also take it up a level in our commitment to hope, and that's what we're going to do.
We were lost and broken, and God found us through hope, and we're going to do the same and help others.
What it's done for us is it's really brought us closer as a couple to discuss how we really need to trust God with everything God has given us. And I think second stage also is kind of exciting because it's going to show us again how generous God is and what he is going to do for hope. And that's exciting to look forward to.
I love hearing the hearts about people explain why they're making a commitment to generosity over the next 2 years. And in just a moment, you're going to have the opportunity to do the same thing. Now, when Kathy and I have filled out our commitment card and we wrote it down, I'm not going to lie, I let out a small gasp when I saw the number on paper. And if I said that, oh yeah, we have no uncertainty, we're totally confident about the future, I would be a liar. There's some uncertainty because for us, we decided it's going to be our number one budget category for the next 2 years. And while there's so much uncertainty in that, to be honest, at the same time, there's so much clarity in that because we believe that's what God is calling us to do. And when we're following the direction of the Lord in our lives, even though there's uncertainty, there's also peace. And there's joy, and there's excitement. So, here's what we're going to do. On your chairs this morning, there was a commitment card that I'm going to show you real quickly how it works. It's a pretty simple thing. Here's how you fill out your commitment card. And by the way, when some of you came here this morning, you already had in mind exactly what you were going to write down here in the box for your second stage commitment. For some of you, you came here this morning not knowing what you were going to write down in this box, and some of us came this morning with no intention of writing anything down in this box. And for some of us, we were at advanced commitment night, and you sense your number has changed since then. That's okay. You can write down your new number in the box. Wherever you came in today, what I'm asking you to do now is, from this point forward, is follow the voice of the Lord. What is God calling you to do? You don't have to write down all these numbers, but here's how your commitment card works. On the first line, it's what you normally give in a year, all the forms of giving you have, and then what you add to that in the second line is how you're going to expand that. What additional funds do you plan to give a year at Hope? Since this is a 2-year generosity initiative, then you multiply those numbers times 2. Some of us aren't good at math. That's a challenge for us, and we have to get our phones out. And that leads you to right here. You take that number and multiply it by 2. Now, in addition to that, some of us plan on giving stored resources to the second stage initiative. Maybe you have some savings, maybe there's something you want to liquidate, and maybe you want to donate some stocks, which, by the way, stock donation is an awesome way to give, and here's why. If it has appreciated in value, you can donate the stock directly to the church. You don't get any capital gains taxes, and we don't get any capital gains taxes. And you get full credit for the contribution with the IRS. If you want to donate some stocks, here's the email address to send your request to, info@hopeandjesus.org. And it's super simple to do. Just say you want to make a stock donation. We'll walk you through it. It's a very easy process to follow. Then, after you fill out your card, you just write in your total right there. Your 2-year total commitment to generosity for second stage, and then give us your name. And in just a moment, I'm going to give you a minute to do that. I'm going to give you a minute to pray for the courage to face any uncertainty in your life. I'm going to give you a minute to talk with your spouse, if you're here as a family, about what your commitment should be and make sure you're on the same page with that. So before I give you that space, I'm going to read a verse, I'm going to say a prayer, and then we're going to give you a couple minutes to do that. Then I'm going to come back out and tell you what to do next with your commitment card. The Apostle Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 3, "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever." Amen. Let's pray. Father, I ask that we will be a people like Joshua, who are determined to follow your direction in our lives, that we will be obedient to what you have called us to do. Like the little boy who gave his lunch to you, Jesus, like Peter who followed your voice out onto the water. Jesus, in fact, may we even have your courage. You obeyed the will of your Father in heaven, and you laid down your life on the cross for the sins of the world. Of course there's uncertainty. We live in an uncertain world, but we have clarity following whatever you have told us to do. So let that be our courage, and let that be our comfort. In this moment, I ask that we would be a fearless people, that we will do what you have commanded us. We know that this obedience will unleash generosity, and you will use that generosity to generate change. May everything we're about to do be for your glory, Jesus, because we know that that's your purpose for our lives, that we glorify you. So bless us in this moment with your presence and guidance.